Not only through his own Cherokee, ancestry discovered his own Jewish roots, but he's also leading the charge. In the DNA discoveries of the ancient roots of the Cherokee and other Native American communities, deep in the Appalachian Mountains lies a mystery America never wanted you to know. The Cherokee people, one of the oldest tribes in North America, carry DNA that defies everything we've been told about history. Scientists expected a clear native lineage, but what they found instead was something strange, something that linked the Cherokee people to a different civilization. For centuries, whispers of this secret have been buried, silenced, or dismissed, but as modern research uncovers the truth, the question grows louder. Who indeed were the Cherokee, and why has their DNA become America's darkest secret? Join us in this video as we reveal the answers to this discovery, the DNA shock that changed everything. The Cherokee DNA mystery begins with what scientists once thought they already understood. For decades, the story was clear. All Native Americans came from a small group of founding mothers who crossed the land bridge from Siberia into Alaska during the last ice age about 15,000 to 20,000 years ago. This theory, known as the land bridge model, relied on mitochondrial DNA, genetic material passed down only from mothers to children. Textbooks insisted that every Native American belonged to one of four maternal haplogroups, A, B, C, or D. Later, a reluctant fifth called X was added, though it was considered extremely rare. These group scientists argued tied Native Americans firmly to Asia, not Europe, not the Middle East, and certainly not Africa. But when researchers began testing Cherokee descendants, everything changed. Instead of finding only the expected A, B, C, and D, they uncovered something that defied the official story. Cherokee DNA carried high frequencies of hapla groups T, U, J, H, and X lineages that did not come from Siberia. These markers were tied to the Mediterranean, to Egyptians, to the Berbers of North Africa, to Jewish populations of the Middle East, and to the Druze people of Lebanon and Israel. This discovery was more than just an academic twist. It shook the foundation of American history. If the Cherokee carried these markers long before Columbus ever set foot in the New World, then their ancestors had deep genetic links to some of the world's oldest civilizations. And the evidence didn't end with anonymous lab results. It began raising questions about what else had been hidden, ignored, or covered up in family after family. Cherokee DNA revealed stories that no textbook could explain. One of the most surprising examples came from none other than Elvis Presley. Few people know that Elvis claimed both Jewish and Cherokee heritage through his mother, Gladys Love Smith. His maternal line traced back to Nancy Burdine, remembered as a Jewish woman born in Kentucky, whose mother was said to be a full-blood Cherokee named White Dove. When Elvis's DNA was tested in 2004, it confirmed haplogroup B, a native lineage. Yet his family history also carried Jewish roots. Elvis himself honored both identities. He wore a Jewish chai necklace and even had a Star of David placed on his mother's grave. His story revealed how Cherokee bloodlines could hold unexpected ties to both Native America and the Old World. And Elvis wasn't alone. Cornelius Dougherty, an Irish trader in the late 1600s, married the daughter of a Cherokee chief. Their descendants carried haplogroups J and U lineages, linked to Jewish and North African populations. Again and again, the Cherokee DNA Project uncovered markers that should have been impossible under the official story. Each new result deepened the mystery. How could Mediterranean and Middle Eastern lineages appear in Cherokee blood long before European colonization? One possibility is chilling. History as we know it is incomplete and ancient. Transatlantic contacts may have left a genetic footprint long forgotten. Some researchers believe the answer lies in ancient voyages, Jewish or Phoenician, traders, seafaring Berbers, or even survivors of forgotten civilizations may have reached America long before Columbus. Others suggest that the Cherokee could carry traces of the lost tribes of Israel, but mainstream science has been slow to accept such ideas. The land bridge theory is a cornerstone of American archaeology, and to challenge it is to question decades of accepted history. If Cherokee DNA truly holds Old World haplogroups in high frequencies, it would mean rewriting the story of how the Americas were first populated. It would also force us to consider that contact between the Old World and the New was far more complex than anything we were taught in school. Yet the findings have often been met with silence. Genetics is politically charged, especially when tied to Native American identity. Governments, institutions, and even tribes themselves have reasons to tread carefully. If Mediterranean markers in Cherokee blood are acknowledged, they could spark debates over ancestry, heritage, and even land rights. For many, it is safer to ignore the results than to face a truth that could unsettle science and politics alike. But the conclusion remains hard to escape. The Cherokee may carry in their veins proof of a hidden chapter of human history, connections between distant worlds made long before Columbus and long before written records. So what could this newfound DNA mystery really mean for the Cherokee? People in the world at large keep watching to find out. The Cherokee legacy and the weight of mystery. Today, the Cherokee people stand as one of the most resilient nations in North America. They endured centuries of loss, forced removal and hardship, yet their culture, language, and identity remain. Now, with the revelations hidden in their DNA, the Cherokee carry not only the memory of their own history, but also the weight of a mystery that stretches across continents. For the Cherokee, this discovery carries a double meaning. On one hand, they are deeply rooted in the mountains and rivers of Appalachia. On the other hand, their blood reveals ties to faraway lands, the Middle East, North Africa, and the Mediterranean, connections that link them to some of the world's oldest civilizations. This dual legacy challenges the way history has long been written in the present day. Cherokee communities continue working to preserve what makes them unique. Their endangered languages being taught in schools and passed down by elders. Their ceremony songs and stories are being recorded and shared, keeping their spirit alive for future generations. With the DNA mystery in mind, these cultural efforts take on even greater importance. They show that Cherokee heritage is not just about survival, it is proof of an ancient and global story. Scientists and historians may continue to debate what the DNA means, but for the Cherokee, the truth is already clear. Their bloodlines tell a story of journeys across oceans, forgotten encounters, and a past far older than the textbooks admit. This mystery is not just about the past, it also reshapes how we see the future. It reminds us that history is not a straight line, but a vast web of connections stretching farther than we once believed. Before the revelation of the DNA mystery, the Cherokee people had always been linked to the Appalachian Mountains. Where did the Cherokee truly come from? Long before DNA testing revealed its secrets, anthropologists and historians debated where the Cherokee truly came from. Two main theories emerged. The first suggests that the Cherokee, an Iroquoian-speaking people, migrated south into the Appalachian Mountains from the Great Lakes region in ancient times. This theory is supported by late 19th century accounts collected by ethnographer James Mooney, who recorded oral traditions from Cherokee elders describing such a migration. The second theory argues the opposite, that the Cherokee had been rooted in the southeast for thousands of years, and that the Iroquoian language itself may have developed there rather than in the north. Archaeological evidence supports this view, pointing to cultural phases that predate recorded history. During the Middle Woodland period between 200 and 600 CE, ancestors of the Cherokee are believed to have lived in what is now western North Carolina. They built earthwork mounds, including the Biltmore Mound near the Swannanoa River, discovered in 1984. Later, during the Pisgah phase of the South Appalachian Mississippian culture, 1 to 500 CE, their settlements grew more complex. Towns often featured a single platform mound serving as a political and ceremonial center surrounded by smaller villages. Most archaeologists agree with this timeline, but some argue the Cherokee presence in the region stretches back even further, hinting at a much deeper connection to the land. Whether migrants from the north or ancient inhabitants of the southeast, one thing is clear. The Cherokee story begins long before European contact, rooted in cultures that left their mark in earth, stone, and memory. But what other claim about the early Cherokee history was recorded? Let's find out. The Ancient Order of the Cherokee. In the 1830s, American writer John Howard Payne visited the Cherokee in Georgia and recorded what elders told him about their traditions. According to the Payne Papers, Cherokee society was once divided into two powerful groups. The first was the white organization made up of elders from the 7 clans. This priestly order oversaw healing, purification, and prayer, guiding the spiritual life of the people. The second group was the red organization, younger men charged with warfare, an activity the Cherokee considered polluting and dangerous. Over time, this system changed. Some historians believe the priestly class known as the Anikutani grew corrupt, leading to a revolt that brought their downfall. Ethnographer James Mooney, who studied the Cherokee in the late 1800s, traced the decline of priestly power back to this revolt. By then, religious knowledge was no longer hereditary but based on individual ability, allowing healers and leaders to emerge through skill rather than birth. Another treasure of Cherokee heritage came with Sequoyah's invention of the Cherokee Sillery in the 1820s. At first, only medicine men known as Denvisky used it to record sacred knowledge, which was considered spiritually powerful. But soon the written language spread across the nation, preserving stories, ceremonies, and wisdom for generations to come. This glimpse into Cherokee society shows a people whose traditions ran deep, blending spirituality, leadership, and survival. It also reminds us that the Cherokee carried not just bloodlines of mystery, but also a cultural strength that allowed them to endure every storm. But how did the Cherokee people come in contact with people for the first time? Stay tuned to find out. First contact with the Old World. The first known Cherokee contact with Europeans came in late May 1540, when Hernando Doto's Spanish expedition moved through their lands near present-day Embryville, Tennessee. The Spaniards called the region Guasili and passed through many villages that would later be identified as Cherokee in Georgia and Tennessee. They even recorded a nation called the Shalak living near the Kiowa River at the point where North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia meet. But this contact brought more than trade or curiosity. It carried devastation. New diseases brought by Europeans and their animals swept through Cherokee communities, unaliving countless people who had no natural immunity. Entire populations across the southeast were decimated before lasting contact was even established. A second Spanish expedition arrived in 1567 under Juan Parardao, who sought an overland route to silver mines in Mexico. Mistakenly believing the Appalachians were connected to the Mexican mountains, Partardo built 6 forts in the interior southeast, including one at Jawara, a powerful Mississippian chiefdom. The native peoples, unwilling to accept foreign control, rose up and unalived nearly every soldier stationed at the forts. Only one survived. Partardo had already returned to his base, and the Spanish never again tried to settle Cherokee lands. This violent first contact left scars, but also showed the resilience of the Cherokee, a people determined to remain rooted in their homeland despite the storm of empire closing in around them. But what struggles did the Cherokee people face, and how did they affect them? Keep watching to find out. The Trail Where They Cried. By the 1830s, the Cherokee were under growing pressure from an expanding white population. A gold rush around Dalenega, Georgia fueled the greed for Cherokee lands. President Andrew Jackson defended removal by claiming it was the only way to prevent extinction, citing other tribes like the Mohegan and Delaware, but evidence showed otherwise. The Cherokee had embraced modern farming techniques, built schools, and maintained an economy in surplus. They were not fading away, they were thriving. In 1830, Chief John Ross led a Cherokee delegation to the U.S. Supreme Court seeking recognition of their sovereignty. In Worcester versus Georgia, the court ruled that the Cherokee were entitled to federal protection from state governments. But Georgia ignored the decision, and Jackson did nothing to enforce it. Removal pressure continued stronger than ever. By 1838, most of the Cherokee were forcibly marched west under the Indian Removal Act. This journey became known as the Trail of Tears, or in Cherokee, Aandula, the trail where they cried. Thousands died from disease, hunger, and exhaustion. Families were torn apart, and those who survived carried scars that would last for generations. Some Cherokee slaveholders even brought enslaved African Americans with them, showing how tangled and tragic the era truly was even after reaching Indian territory. Conflict tore the nation apart. On June 22, 1839, Major Ridge, John Ridge, and Alas Budino were assassinated by fellow Cherokees who saw the Treaty of New Yacht as a betrayal. Blood was spilled not just at the hands of outsiders, but within the nation itself. The Trail of Tears remains one of the darkest chapters in American history, a story of resilience in the face of unimaginable loss. For the Cherokee, it was proof that no matter how hard they fought to adapt, their survival would be tested in the harshest of ways. So, how did women preserve the Cherokee tradition? Let's find out. Women life-givers and keepers of tradition. In traditional Cherokee society, women held a place of honor and power. They were the heads of households, owners of land, and farmers of the family's fields. As mothers of the clans, they shaped identity and lineage. Women were respected as life-givers not only through childbirth, but also through the nurturing of crops that sustained the community. Clan mothers carried the responsibility of leadership, while others, both in the past and today, also stood as warriors protecting their people. Above all, Cherokee women were tradition keepers charged with preserving stories, ceremonies, and culture. But these roles began to change under pressure from the outside world. Between 1776 and 1835, waves of European influence brought first through explorers like Dato, then through American expansion and missionary work pushed new social standards onto Cherokee life. The matrilineal and community-centered structure gave way to a male-dominated model influenced by U.S. policies and the civilization program promoted by leaders like Washington and Jefferson. Over time, Cherokee men and women were forced into roles shaped more by European norms than by their own traditions. Even so, Cherokee women never lost their place as cultural anchors. By safeguarding the language, the stories, and the spiritual heart of their people, they ensured that Cherokee identity endured. Their role reminds us that resilience is not just found in battles or survival of hardship. It is also in the quiet, steady work of keeping memory alive, as women held tradition. How did the Cherokee Nation rebuild into a strong nation today? Stay tuned to find out. Survival politics and rebirth of a nation. After the heartbreak of the Trail of Tears, the Cherokee people rebuilt their lives in Indian territory. They had lost their ancestral homelands, but they had not lost their nation. In 1866, after the Civil War, the United States promised the Cherokee a permanent homeland. But this promise came at a price. The Cherokee were forced to give up part of their western lands, which were later carved into what became the Oklahoma Territory. Unlike many other tribes, the Cherokee Nation held its land in fee simple title, not in trust, under the U.S. government. This independence was unique, but it also placed the Cherokee at the center of constant political struggle. Though the General Allotment Act had originally exempted the 5 civilized tribes, later legislation stripped away protections, forcing the Cherokee Nation to divide its lands into individual allotments. In 1906, Congress passed the 5 Tribes Act, which many believed had dissolved tribal governments. For decades, courts supported this interpretation, and the Cherokee Nation nearly vanished as a functioning government. When William Charles Rogers, the last Senate-approved principal chief, died in 1917, the federal government began appointing chiefs directly. Their terms were often so short they earned the name chief for a day. 6 men carried this title, the first being A.B. Cunningham, who served for just over 2 weeks in November of 1919. It was a painful symbol of how far the Cherokee had been pushed from their once strong self-governing system. The tide began to turn in the 1930 ES during Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal. His administration encouraged tribes to reorganize under the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. The Cherokee seized this chance. In 1938, they gathered in Fairfield, Oklahoma, to hold a general convention and elect a chief of their own. J.B. Milne won that vote. And in 1941, Roosevelt himself confirmed the election. The Cherokee Nation had taken a first step back towards sovereignty. In 1949, W. W. Keeler was appointed chief, a man who also served as president of Phillips Petroleum. By the 1970s, a new era arrived. President Richard Nixon's policy of native self-determination allowed the Cherokee to truly rebuild their government. The people elected Keeler as chief, replacing appointment with democracy once again. He was later succeeded by Ross Swimmer, and in 1975, the Cherokee drafted a new constitution under the name Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. Ratified in 1976, it restored the people's voice, their structure, and their power. Then came a moment that made history. In 1985, Wilma Maniler was elected as the first female chief of the Cherokee Nation. Her leadership symbolized more than just progress. It was a return to older traditions when Cherokee women held power as clan mothers and community leaders. It was also a declaration to the world. The Cherokee had endured loss, betrayal, and forced removal, but they had never disappeared. Their government, their people, and their story continued. So, what are your thoughts about the Cherokee people's DNA mystery? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.